All right, good evening, everybody. It's everybody here this evening for our meet and greet, Belterra version. It's great to see everybody here in person, and we also have a bunch of people online. So they're there as well. So I'm Jacob Avila, and I am one of your board members. Also in attendance, we have other current board members. We have Jennifer Bierman, who's our president. There she is. And we have Pat Williams, who's on the board as well, as our timekeeper from Guy. And Patricia Layton is online. Say hi, Patricia. And Bob Luddy, our board member, is online as well as Clement Pichette. So we have 3 board members who are online, and then we got 3 board members here tonight. Okay, so I'm going to explain some of the procedures for the evening, and first I'm going to start with instructions for the candidates. We have 2 candidates here with us tonight in person, and then we have another candidate who's going to be online, and a candidate who was going to be here that can't be here, but we've issued a statement which we'll read about their candidacy. So instructions for the candidates. Candidates will have 3 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute to answer each questions that are asked, and 3 minutes for a closing statement. There will be no rebuttals. Opening statements will be made in the following order, based alphabetically by last name: Howard Ballard, Sherelle Jarrett, who I believe is online. Fred Sanchez is the one who's not going to be here, so I'll read the statement again, and he won't be here to answer the questions. And is it Mehmet? Or how do you pronounce your name?
Tugru.
Tugru.
Yes.
Wasn't even close.
You have my middle name there.
Yes. Okay. So Tugru will be last, and it's based on alphabetical order. Board member Kat Williams will serve as our timekeeper. So when you have 15 seconds remaining, she will display a yellow card. Or that was white, but that's and a red card when your time is up. So 15 seconds with this card, and then when your time is up, the red card is signed to wrap it up.
Do you kick us out if we just continue like
We do not. No, we will not kick you out.
Well, turn your mic off.
Yeah. All right, and we'll put a call into the Belterra blast for questions ahead of time. We will not be reading those questions verbatim, but aggregating the questions into critical question areas that capture the nature of all the questions that came through. So we had a great response from the community with questions, and we're going to just consolidate it and ask those questions tonight. Personal references about other candidates will not be allowed. You'll receive 1 warning and then be asked to leave on your second infraction. So this is a clean race. No mudslinging. This event is being recorded and broadcast live on Zoom and will be shared with the community. Okay, so instruction for our audience here, please turn off your cell phones or anything that can distract you from the candidates. Please remain quiet throughout the event. No clapping, cheering, or calling out, except after their closing statements. You may clap for all candidates if you wish. Once all pre-submitted questions have been asked and answered by the candidates, the audience in person and via Zoom will be able to ask questions as well. So if you all have questions after we ask the questions we have already set up, you're more than welcome to. So candidates' opening statements, again, you have 3 minutes each, and we'll start with Howard.
All right, my name is Howard Ballard, and I have lived in Belterra since November of 2004. So I've been here for quite a while, seen it grow. This building was not here when we first moved here. And I think Belterra Drive ended just a little further up the road. So none of this was here. This was a ranch at one time, and it was owned by the Foster family, I believe, as part of Sawyer Ranch, and also the Willie family. That was all sold, and Eric Willis was the developer when we first moved here, and we were encouraged to move here by some friends from Houston and also from here in Oak Hill, where we live in Oak Hill. My wife Tammy is here, Tammy, and my wife we have two daughters. They both grew up here for the most part. They moved, when we moved here, and one was 7, one was 5, I believe. And so this is all they knew growing up. And we loved it here. We were part of the community. They went to school here. My wife was a teacher, and my kids went to pretty much every elementary school there was at the time, because we kept getting zoned into different schools. And they went to middle school and high school here. And this was a part of our life, living here in Belterra, and we loved it very much. We got pretty active in the community through some events that we had here, like we had triathlons, we had little bike races, we had all sorts of little things going on and get-togethers, and we watched a lot of homes being built in Belterra. It was a fun time to be here, and we enjoyed it immensely. We got very involved in the swim team. I went to Eric Willis, the developer at the time, my wife and I did, and talked about creating a swim team just to bring about community togetherness and support. And that he allowed us to do that. He even bought the lane lines for us. Our first swim team had about 20 kids. But we had more than that, but the league we were in only allowed for 20 competitors. And I went out and found the league that we were currently in still, Capital City Swim Club. And it's grown from 20 to over 200 now, I think. So it's really big. So we were very involved. I was not as involved after that as I could have been because of my job. I was an athletic director here at Dripping Springs ISD. And so my involvement was limited quite a bit after that. But because I was so involved at the school district and had things going on pretty much every night of the week. And we just love it here. We love our neighbors. We've had some of the same neighbors since 2004. And we just have been very invested in this community, and I'm running because my neighbors encouraged me to do so, and I feel like it's time for me to give back to this community, and that's why I'm here tonight. And I'll let you guys continue on.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you. It's not a Belterra pioneer.
Yes.
Here with us this evening. Cheryl Jeter is next. And Cheryl, do we have you online? See you. There you are. Hi. Good evening.
Might want to go ahead and unmute.
He's muted.
Cheryl, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Jeter. My wife and I, Regina, moved to Belterra in July of 20. I'm a long time Austin resident with a big split of 20 years in California while I was running a global consultancy. This is actually my 4th home that I've owned in Austin. I moved here when I was 17 to play in the UT Longhorn Band. I joined and served from the Marine Corps here. And I've been a member of officer of multiple veterans organizations over the years. That's the baseline was contribution to others, vets helping vets. I was a builder here in Austin with the Carrington Group some years back. And in that capacity, I was an HOA board representative. And I've been in several HOAs. So I'm always interested in the fairness of the pricing that the HOAs get into. I'm interested in the kind of quality and commitment. For example, there have been some issues here in Belterra with pool management, and those things to me are straightforward management issues. So I think that good boards provide an opportunity to set policy so that management staff has the ability to flourish and thrive and really get it done on behalf of the participants. My wife, Regina, is a senior loan officer for Movement. And so we have our hand a lot in the real estate community and the construction community in different areas. So over the years, I'm retired now. It gives me an opportunity to practice my listening skills. I'm really an expert in many regulations because of the businesses that I've been in, owned and operated. So I put in for this. We've got 2 Harley Davidsons. We've got two dogs named Nipsey and Sadie. We've got a cat named Jack's Diamond. And it's really been a pleasure. We put in a great backyard since we moved in here, have great neighbors. So I've got time to participate, to listen, contribute, and I'm available for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So Fred Sanchez is be next, and he's not here. He was going to be here this evening, and he can't. So I'll read his statement. If I go over 3 minutes, you let me know. So this is Fred Sanchez's statement. Hello, Belterra community. My name is Fred Sanchez, and I'm excited to announce my candidacy for the HOA board in our wonderful Belterra community. With 18 years of experience as the previous HOA president of a thriving North Virginia neighborhood, I bring a wealth of knowledge and leadership skills to the table. I am committed to leveraging my experience to enhance property values and the overall quality of life in Belterra. During my tenure as the HOA president in North Virginia, I successfully implemented initiatives that significantly increase property values and improve community amenities. I understand the intricacies of managing the homeowners association and the importance of balancing the needs of residents with responsible fiscal management. I will draw on this experience to ensure that Belterra remains an attractive and desirable place to live, ultimately benefiting all homeowners by preserving and increasing property values. I am deeply committed to maintaining and enhancing our community's infrastructure and amenities. By carefully overseeing maintenance projects, implementing cost-effective improvements, and exploring innovative solutions, we can ensure that our neighborhood remains visually appealing and functional. These efforts will not only enhance our quality of life, but also contribute to the long-term value of our properties. Additionally, I am keenly aware of the importance of community safety. I will prioritize the implementation of effective security measures, collaborate with law enforcement agencies, and engage residents in neighborhood watch programs. By creating a safe and secure environment, we can provide peace of mind to all homeowners and further elevate the desirability of our community. Furthermore, I am dedicated to promoting a strong sense of community engagement and unity. I will work diligently to foster an inclusive environment where everyone's voice is heard and valued by organizing social events, fostering connections among neighbors, and encouraging resident participation in decision-making processes. We can create a vibrant and harmonious Belterra community. In conclusion, with 18 years of experience as a previous HOA president in North Virginia, I am prepared to bring my proven track record, expertise, and dedication to serving as a member of the HOA board in Belterra. Together, we can enhance property values, improve community amenities, prioritize safety, and foster a strong sense of community spirit. Thank you for considering my candidacy. I kindly ask for your vote in an election. I am eager to collaborate with each and every one of you to elevate Belterra to new heights. Sincerely, Fred Sanchez. So that's Fred's opening statement. All right, well, our last candidate, Tugru, we'll hear your opening statement, and you have 3 minutes as well.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. My name is Tugrul. I'm running for the board of directors. And I would like to jump directly into my vision and my ideas. And then if you have any time, I'll talk about myself. So I'm running for the board because I would like to maintain a peaceful, happy, positive, and frustration-free Belterra. And I'm planning on doing that by doing 3 things. Number 1, keep our assessments low and reasonable. So high HOA assessments, they pose an additional burden on cost of living, and Belterra is already an expensive place to live. So I'll make sure that we keep our assessments low and reasonable. Number 2, and we're getting into the dicey part. I'll be fighting against unreasonable enforcements and making sure that our enforcements put families and children's hygiene and safety first. So what do I mean by that? You might have talked to your neighbors, or you might have simply scrolled through Belterra neighbors group. I have seen countless posts about substandard conditions in the bathrooms here, the pool being murky. Sad to say, but some people were talking about they saw human feces in the bathrooms in here, and In fact, someone had posted some schedule of somebody seeing the last time the bathroom was cleaned, and it was like April or May. And then we also have reports, people reporting splash pad not working. Yet on the other hand, I've also been seeing things like the day after trash day, taking pictures of people's trash cans, like literally the day after trash day, or taking pictures of people's dead beat in the backyard. I mean, in no way, shape, or form I'm advocating for an ugly looking Belterra, but in a scenario where we have amenities that we're paying for and that have been sort of neglected, and whereas we have enforcements like trash that are not neglected, I'll work to shift the focus a bit more on our amenities and then consider the other enforcements. And I will also be working with the board to make sure that we give freedom to residents as much as possible for their landscaping projects, xeriscaping, pool applications, and solar projects. So I'll make sure we can give freedom to residents as much as we can. And number three, better informing residents. I've seen in person and on neighbors group, many people think everything they say outside is governed by our HOA. That is not the case. And I think we can do a better job in informing what is the jurisdiction of our HOA, which is the rule of thumb is the amenities here, the gym, the pool, splash pad, and the bathrooms, and a little bit of an area. The rest is governed by WCID. So I think it's our job to let all the residents know. So I'm seeking your vote, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all our candidates for your opening statements. Really appreciate it. So now we're going to get into some questions and answers, and 1 minute per candidate. This is more rapid fire. But we've got quite a few questions to go through. Well, Howard, we're going to start with you. How would you describe your leadership and communication style?
I'm certainly very open. I listen to people. It's probably my best quality is listening. And I use previous policies and things to go by and experiences and make a judgment call on those type of things. And of course, I would follow any policies that are in place that have been put in place by our previous board and this community, and know that it's the right thing to do. So that's what I believe in, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Thank you very much, Howard. Cheryl, we'll go to you. The question is, how would you describe your leadership and communication style?
I spent 30 years teaching leadership in neuroscience worldwide. And my leadership style is direct, it's compassionate, it geared toward listening, understanding, appreciation, and teamwork. I don't really believe in dictatorial kinds of leadership and take this and have a good day with it while you eat it. It's more of a way to get the best out of the people who you work with. And I believe that that's where we get the best result.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Much appreciated. Trevor, how would you describe your leadership and communication style?
Generally, I try to understand what the other person is actually trying to convey, and if there is any form of conflict or any type of miscommunication, I try to understand what are the disagreements and receive feedback, and then not try to produce any other information unless everyone is on the same page. So, so I would say.
All right, wonderful. Next question. What attributes and skills do you feel our management team needs? What attributes, skills do you feel our management team needs? And Howard, will start with you.
Okay, I think that, in the past year, 2 years, I think the Belterra communication has gotten much better. I mean, I receive emails pretty much on a weekly basis, and I've been very pleased with that to see what's going on in the community, because that might have been lost in years past, but I feel like it's really become a focus of this community to know what's going on in our community and to be a part of it. So that's one thing that intrigues me so far about what's been happening with our management. I'll continue to listen. I'll continue to provide input and see what we can do better, make it stronger.
Okay, great. Cheryl, do you want me to repeat the question, or did you hear it okay?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, absolutely. What attributes and skills do you feel our management team needs?
I've had a few experiences with previous and current members of the management team. There was a couple of lots behind us that grew 7-foot weeds. And so the first runs through it actually took me 9 months of insisting that the HOA take some action about it. Since this, what I would call most recent management has come in, I've noticed that they have a much higher degree of responsiveness. The same issue I spoke with Darla about and was resolved within a matter of weeks. So I'm, in my view, in my experience of being here, they've become much more sensitive and responsive over the past weeks. I wanted to comment on part of the conversation earlier. I think that it's really, really important for people to distinguish what boards do and what management does. And that for the most part, the purpose of boards is to establish policy and hold management accountable to expressing that. So I think that we have to be careful when we start talking about that, like board members are going to be involved with the trash getting picked up over on the splash scene. It's not, in my view.
Appreciate that, Cheryl. You're out of time, but we'll come back to you with the next question. Okay, Doug Root, the same question, please.
Yeah, so I think the board of directors it consists of proxies, real proxies for the people, and the most important part is feedback. So we need some form of issue tracking, where we have people giving their feedback to us or to the management company, to Marcia, and I think we need to implement a working, nice complaint or feedback tracking system. And that is not just the annual survey, but where people could actually track their issues, what they have talked about, what they want fixed, what they want built. And I'm currently actually on the strategic planning committee, which is a subcommittee of the HOA board of directors. It's a subcommittee. And I'm actually working with Marcia on building a issue tracking system and analytics. So I think feedback tracking is what the management needs.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I'll remind everybody, we just have a minute to answer these questions. So, Howard, considering that WCID's own most of the land in Belterra, how do you suggest the board and CCMC work with them to improve the working relationship? And how has your relationship interactions with WCID been like?
Well, over the years, it's been a struggle, to be honest with you, with WCID, as far as some of the areas, the easements, and some of and to get the communication to them, what needs to be done. I mean, we see the crews out working them, but sometimes they don't get to some of those things, and I know that it may be short-handed, I don't know. But we've got to be able to communicate with the HOA, with the WCID, into what our needs are and our community needs, and really stress those needs and make sure that that communication link is there. We have to have it all the time and be honest about things and get through that. So I have nothing against WCID. I've talked to them and they've handled things for us.
Great.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, Cheryl, you want me to repeat the question for you? Happy to do it. So the question was, considering WCID's own most of the land in Belterra, and how would you suggest the board and CCMC work with them to improve the working relationship? And what are your relationships, interactions with WCID?
Yes, it's your turn.
Could you repeat the question again? I couldn't quite understand it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So consider, the water district, Water Control District, WCID controls most of Belterra. A lot of people don't even know all that the water district in Belterra controls. How do you suggest the board and CCMC, our management team, work with them to improve the working relationship?
I'm not quite exactly sure that I understand the question. However, over in our world, unless I simply missed something, either in the Belterra news or an email or some other mode of communication, I had no idea that there was being a change in water management from WCID, or not, that's not the name of it, the company that was providing that. So I felt as a consumer a lack of being fully and appropriately informed of what was going on, either beyond the cause in the matter in the back or what was attempting to be accomplished. So the point I want to make with it is I think what I just said is relatively common in many areas in the way that communication occurs. So we can tell that there's a change. Why there's a change, I cannot tell you personally, and I have not done research to find out so far.
Okay, thank you very much, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Bruce, any questions?
Yeah, so I think the solution is twofold. So the first part is better informing residents so that they understand who has what jurisdiction. And in fact, it's also one of my statements in my initial form I submitted to Marcia. The second part is to have maybe a subcommittee between the board of directors of WCIDs and Belterra HOA, and basically like an inter-board communication group where we work hand in hand to solve problems. But I think the solution rests with the twofold part. Number one, better inform residents so that they know where to submit feedback. And number two, possibly form a subcommittee so that we can work together.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, next question. Howard, how would you support the board members and committees in establishing and achieving short and long-term goals?
Question is, how would I support other members, board members?
Yeah, how would you support the board members, existing board members and committees in establishing and achieving short and long-term goals?
Well, I think it's critical that we have committees, and I know we do, for different things in our community, and being able to communicate with them and listen to them, listen to their proposals, and then enacting on them is just crucial to a good community and how we work together. And then with our board directors, our board members, it's just communication back and forth, keeping it going, talking about the committees, how the work that they do, the work that they put in, and how that will affect our entire community. Is that a good thing or not? That's what we have to decide as board members, but our committees are usually on top of it, and they're going to do the right thing. So I think I would be that kind of a person who would listen and be very instrumental in taking their notes or their ideas and presenting them to the board.
Okay, all right, thank you, Howard. Cheryl, next question, same question to you. I'll repeat it for you. So how would you support the board members and committees in establishing and achieving short and long-term goals?
Teamwork is my wheelhouse. That's where you get things done, when you can take what's there to do because people choose to be there to do it, have some fun with it, examine it, really investigate it, come up with the kind of solutions that work for the most people involved with the whole thing. It can become a very fun, satisfying, and enjoyable process. That kind of functioning through leadership and teamwork with each other just enhances people's desire to participate with each other.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ruth, next, same question to you.
Yeah, so I think the key part is very well defining short and long-term goals, and then in an ample amount of frequency, reiterating on the goals, how well we're doing it, and then having an agreement on what the goals are and how we execute them. So we have to create a feedback loop of how we define short and long-term goals. In fact, we actually have a subcommittee underneath the board of directors. We have a strategic planning committee. It is actually advising the board about how we should define short and long-term goals, how to satisfy stakeholders, residents, what we should include in annual surveys, things like that. So when I'm in the board, I will further support the strategic planning committee, and yeah, I think that's what I would do.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all of you. And so the next question, so as board members, and I can speak from personal experience, sometimes problems arise and we often have diverse opinions. How will you encourage open dialogue and constructive discussion among board members and community stakeholders, even when facing differing opinions, to foster an environment that values the diversity of thoughts and perspectives as you work to create a solution? That's a mouthful, but
It is.
Alan?
Well, we live in a society where we all have differing opinions, and we have to communicate our opinions. We need to listen to those opinions from others, and work to find a common source, or find a common answer that we can come up with where we all agree to it. That's the only way we're going to ever get anywhere. So we have to take all the different opinions, listen to them, put them together, and then come up with a solution that we can all be agreeable to. And it can be a tough thing. There's no doubt about that, but we have to be able to work together to make those things happen.
All right, very good. Cheryl, I'm going to ask the same question for you. You want me to repeat the question? It's a mouthful.
Well, in examination, what's appropriate is to distinguish facts from opinions, interpretations, feelings, and thoughts. So it becomes clear what the actual issue is that you're wishing to solve or find resolution with. One of the difficulties is that many people believe that their opinions are facts. And so it takes some work and conversation to agree on the kind of criteria that you want to use, so that you can either be in agreement or you can be in agreement to disagree. A lot of effectiveness in producing results has to do with the ground rules, or the criteria that people set up to be able to have their conversations in. I worked with many multi-billion-dollar expansion projects with up to 50 nationalities at a time. And so good morning in one Macedonian meant one thing to somebody who is from Amsterdam. And so it's about being able to bring all that together, to integrate it, to find out what's really present for people, and to work it out from that perspective.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate the response. Thank you. I'll ask you the same question.
All right. So if there is any form of disagreement, I will try to get to the bottom of it and understand why do we have a disagreement, and clearly write them down, why a couple people are opposing a particular decision. And if it's about to create a sour atmosphere where things are not going to get any better, I would ask myself, do we have to decide on this right now? If we have to, maybe we could put it on a vote, because the board consists of, I think, 7 members. It's an odd number, so you're guaranteed to have a majority. And if we don't have to decide it literally right then and then I would just maybe pause on it for people to sleep on things, and maybe hold a subsequent, maybe like special session meeting to discuss it at a later time. So that's what I would do.
Okay, all right. Thanks to everybody for the responses. So Howard, can you share your past experiences or examples that illustrate your dedication to fulfilling responsibilities and exceeding expectations in a leadership role?
I hate to talk about myself, but I've been in this community since 1990. in Dripping Springs. Obviously, when I first went to work out here as a teacher, there was nowhere to live out here. And so I had to drive back and forth from Austin, but I stuck it out. I loved it so much that I had opportunities to move out of here, but I did not. And we moved into Belterra, and my role as athletic director, as head football coach, certainly I had to deal with a lot of different things. I mean, there were some tough decisions that were made, some tough things I had to deal with, and my family took the brunt of it sometimes, but they were fine with it. So I've had lots of experiences in that type of role as a leader, and I've listened to all sides and come up with a common decision.
Wonderful, thank you. Cheryl, same question for you, sir.
I've been in a leadership role since my youth. I was a Marine Sergeant in Vietnam. I came back, I was in the political arena in Austin, ran state and local political campaigns for state comptroller, for governor, for city council. All of that has to do with enrolling people to participate in what's best for people. I ran a global consultancy as a cultural strategist, which was to cause companies to become the kind of companies they wanted to, with their own kind of inherent values. So these are the things I've done all my life. And actually, one of the reasons I chose to run for HOA board member was to share and contribute those skills, because that's what I've done with all my life, is contribute my skills to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, appreciate it. Pedro?
I have very small amount of HOA experience because I've been a homeowner for the past 3 years. The most relevant experience I have to an HOA setting is I've been serving in the strategic planning committee for the past couple months. But in terms of leadership, while at college at MIT, I was elected to be in Student Life Council, where I represented about 1,000 students in my class, and gathering their feedback and relaying feedback about different classes and the homework, the problem-setting project assignments and relevancy to the professors and to the relevant deans. But as for the HOA board of directors, I've never served in one. I'm a young homeowner for the past 3 years, so
All right.
hopefully this will be my first time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I have one more question, and prepare a question, and we'll open it up to the floor, see if they have any questions. The last question I have is, looking ahead, what specific goal or outcome do you hope to achieve during your term on the board that will bring about meaningful and lasting improvement to the community?
Wow. My experiences dealing with school boards, city council at Dripping Springs, and it's always an ordeal a lot of times to come up with solutions that are good for the entire community. I think I don't have an agenda, so to speak. I'm here to represent the people of Dripping Springs, the entire community. And my goal is to continue to make it a very safe community, to keep people involved, and to keep our community just invested in this community and proud of this community to be a part of it.
Thank you very much. Cheryl, same question.
I love not hearing sirens and emergency vehicles in our community. I love the beauty of our deer populations. If I were to say what for me is lacking, in my view, in a sizes place, there needs to be a place where dogs can run free, off leash in designated areas. Otherwise, this Belterra is a tremendously fine place to live in our world. And I want to make sure that that world continues to maintain itself and improve itself through our changing times. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you.
So Belterra is a great place to live, and I want to make this HOA so that it's one of the reasons people want to live here. Normally, you see people live in places despite HOAs, or if they're happy, they just don't talk about it. They just ignore things. I want to have it so that people are so happy, they actually just talk about it. Like, hey, I love this HOA so much, like these people are great. Something bad happened, I let these guys know, they fixed it in like a day or two. I want not just the residents, but realtors, everybody knows, so that people, we just attract property value, we attract new people who are moving to Austin. So, that's my goal. So I want to make HOA a reason to live in Belterra.
Okay, thank you for all of your responses. We'll open it up to the floor. The floor has any questions for our candidates? Yes, sir.
Jim Maziak, so I guess my question is, what would you focus on in your first 3 months on the board you were elected?
Should we run these questions backwards?
Yeah, sure, yeah, so Tucker, we'll start with you. What would you, your question was, what would you do your first 3 months with Laura? What would you focus on your first 3 months in board?
I would focus on feedback loop. Basically have people be able to easily submit their feedback and track what the status is, and then as a board, understand in aggregate statistics, what's going on, what generic issues are reported, and then individually report these back to the residents, and then also as a board, understand what's going on in the bigger picture. So I would work on the feedback.
Okay, all right. Cheryl, what would you focus on your first 3 months on the board? Can you hear me, Cheryl?
He's on mute.
You're muted.
I'm muted now. Am I muted?
You're good now. I can hear you.
Okay, I'm okay.
Yes, sir.
I think that I'd like to take with the board a complete review of all the current restrictions and regulations and listen to any feedback that comes from the residents and see if there's any focus that in their view that we should tend to, and if so, address that appropriately.
I would like to, the first 3 months are critical, but I would like to make sure that I communicate with the board members. I talk to them and find out what issues there are. And I'd like to meet with committees, or at least find out what we have in Belterra, because I'm not even sure myself as to what all we have as far as our committees go and what their goals are. So I'd like to find out what those are and then listen to them, and then just learn more about our policies and how they work with our community.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that question. What other questions do we have on the floor? Bob?
Hi, Bob Lay, I'm one of the current board of directors. One of the things that we have to do in the neighborhood is work closely with water control improvement districts number 1 and 2. We have to work together with closely with other neighborhood organizations. I'm wondering if any of the candidates feel like they have a conflict of interest when it comes to interfacing with another agency that serves our neighborhood.
Okay, Tucker, we'll start with you.
I don't have a conflict of interest. I'm serving in the strategic planning committee in the HOA board of directors, but I think that is allowed, so.
Okay, right. Cheryl, did you hear the question?
I did not. Thank you. Please repeat.
Okay, Bob,
One of the things that we have to do as the board of directors for the Belterra HOA is interface with other agencies that also service this area, typically water control improvement districts number 1 and 2. I'm curious if any of the candidates feel like they might have a conflict of interest in serving in a position on it.
So did you hear him? Because he's kind of far from the back.
No, all the organizations I've participated with in my life have been about helping mothers. I find no conflict in it. I'm a member of the VFW, the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, Patriot Guard Riders, and Disabled Veterans of America and VVA, and all of those are about helping people. And you know what? One thing, there's lots of veterans in these neighborhoods. I know that. I see them. We wave at each other. And so I'm here for who we are. That's the bottom line.
To answer your question, I have no conflicts with WCID or TCEQ or any of those. And I've worked with TCEQ in the past as an athletic director in the city of Dripping Springs. So no, I do not have any conflict at all.
A follow-up question, if I may.
yes, please.
Mr. Spiron, personally, would you care to comment comment in open forum for the rest of our neighbors why you filed suit against WCID number 2, the board president Samantha Bethke, and Infomark in November of 2022.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Would you like to offer comment to the neighborhood, people that are potentially voting for you, about why you filed a lawsuit against the Water Control Improvement District number 2, the board president Samantha Bethke, and Infomark in November of 2022?
That is a sealed, finished
It's a
suit.
matter of public record. It's in the Hays court. It can be viewed. It's also visible on Water Control Improvement District agendas.
Yes.
For several months, which is why I'm asking you to provide some insight on why you filed suit against an agency that you may potentially have to work very closely with.
I do have zero conflict of interest, and I wouldn't wish to provide any comment on it. What is viewable as public should be easily self-explanatory. And if you need any record about it, I'll be happy to provide you the public links to it, or anything like that. But thank you for asking.
All right, thank you, Bob. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, James Howard. I'd like to start by thanking the outgoing board members for their service. We kind of thankless job a lot of the time. And I'd like to express on behalf of the members of the community, thanks for the service. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I offer something? Hello?
So, tough question. There are almost as many candidates here as there are residents. So the number one problem we've got in a community of 1,980 homes appears to me to be apathy. How do y'all deal with that? That's the number one problem we've got here. It's not.
We have a very poor audio system here, and I'm so far unable to understand your question.
So we'll go ahead and repeat it for you. You'll be the second one to answer it.
Yeah,
Sorry about the distance of the mic.
yeah. But James, thank you for those kind words. As one of the board members who's exiting at the end of June, and Jennifer, our board president as well. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
So the really question is, how do we deal with apathy
Right.
in the community? How do we get engagement so that we're all rowing the same direction and making progress? That's our question.
So Hubbard, we'll start with you. How do you deal with the apathy in the community and get people involved?
Yes, this is one of the things we had discussed in the planning committee. I think we also even have a low water turnout in general. I think the goal here is to reach out to people maybe more often and do like a pulse check on people. But sometimes, and I had also said this before, sometimes people choose to ignore things if they're just happy with the way things are. I'm not saying we should ignore people or not reach out to anybody, but sometimes that's not the worst type of signal. But I would really double check on how we're encouraging and reaching out to people, how they would want to join forces with the HOA and how they want to contribute with their ideas. For example, when I was writing on Belterra Neighbors Group, I was telling people, even if you're not going to vote for me, just please go and vote because we don't have great water turnout.
Right. Okay. Cheryl, we'll repeat the question. We had from somebody in the audience was asking, how would you deal with apathy in the community? How would you get the community engaged in Belterra and what we're doing here?
How would you get the community engaged? How would you address empathy?
Well, that's a really, really good question. I'll tell you what it brings up just straightforwardly is firecrackers. I'm a combat Marine. It means that I have some reactions and somewhat sensitive to things blowing up around me. And our dogs are that way too. And also really, really, really love fireworks. Really love fireworks. But so sometimes I just think that we should make the big parking lot over at the elementary school available and everybody take their fireworks over there and have a good time and go home rather than what we go through. So I don't think that it's apathy, by the way. I think it sometimes translates as a lack of respect and dignity for the comfort and rights of others. And so I think that there's work to be done there, period.
Thank you, Cheryl. Howard?
Apathy is almost a harsh word. I mean, I think that there's so many of us in this community that have jobs and we work and we have our kids and they're so busy that they just cannot get involved in a lot of things. And so there's just not very many people here, and I know that, but we wish there were more people involved. And I'm one of those that kind of stood by the side for years without getting involved in a lot of things. And and I don't know how you cure that problem, but it's certainly something we can look into. And there are some issues that we're going to have to deal with, and I'm aware of that. And we'll just have to do our best as board members to do that.
Okay, thank you. Steve, you had a question?
Yes, I was here, but I'm curious. If you get elected to the board, you serve 3 years, right? What would it take in 3 years for you to want to get reelected?
Yes, sir, yes, go ahead and start.
If I fail on any of my three pillars that I mentioned, I will not run again. So if I still see people asking questions like, hey, why is this road in this condition, whereas the roads are not in the HOA jurisdiction? If I see those types of posts, or if I see still a lot of resident frustration about pool being murky, the bathrooms being bad, people complaining about unreasonable enforcements, or our HOA fees going skyrocket, I will not run for office again. So that's my criteria.
Okay.
I have to deliver on all the three promises, otherwise I'm out.
Okay, and I'll try to repeat it for Cheryl. So Steve, your question was, what would it take for you not to run for the board in 3 years after your term?
Yeah, my question was, if you get elected to the board in 3 years, what would it take for you to want to get reelected again?
Cheryl, did you hear that?
Say it again, please.
So if you get elected, what would it take for you to want to run again when your term is up in 3 years?
Personally, my experience with leadership. So I'm a past chapter officer in multiple states of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association with 16,000 members. Simply said, when we put a patch on your back, we say, if it's not in your heart, don't put it on your back. So that's my view about public service. If you're not up to it, don't do it. Period. End of conversation.
I think that in 3 years, I'll know if I'm going to continue or not. But I would hope that the things that we do as board members reflect the ideas of this community. I mean, it is a life wide open. We love it, and we want to make it an even better place, a safer community. We want our pools to be clean. We know that, all those type of things. We just need to take care of that. I've worked around pools for 20 years, so it's a fix. It can be fixed. There's a lot of things that we can do, and after 3 years, well, if I haven't done anything, or there's a lot of apathy, then yeah, I'll get out. But I hope to stay in it. So we'll see.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Kenny. Steve, thank you for that question. We're going to take one of the questions online. Okay, so this is going to be for all the candidates. Fireworks in our community pose a significant safety issue in addition to being violations of our PCNRs and the Texas State Penal Code, Title 9, Chapter 42. Reminders from the board to the community and appeals to courtesy and common sense have not been effective. Residents fear reprisal as they complain. My question is, if elected, do you support the hiring of law enforcement patrols during those times that suffer the greatest number of violations? If not, why? And yeah, so I'll start with you. That's question one. Gabrielle, you can start with that.
I can't comment if it's illegal to have fireworks, and I think it's not HOA jurisdiction to hire law enforcement, as far as I know, because it's not a public office. So I can't comment on if it's illegal, so
Okay,
you would need to check on that, and then I could provide my view, so.
all right, fair enough. Cheryl, did you hear the question? You
Please
kinda-
repeat, thank you.
About fireworks.
Is it a fireworks question?
Yes, sir.
What's the question?
Ready.
It's a long question, so bear with me. Fireworks in our community pose a significant, this is from a resident, so this is what a resident is asking. Fireworks in our community pose a significant safety issue in addition to being violations of our CCNRs and the Texas State Penal Code. Reminders from the board to the community and appeals to courtesy and common sense have not been effective. Residents are fearful if they complain. The question is, if elected, if you support the hiring of law enforcement patrols during those times that suffer the greatest number of violations, if not, why?
Absolutely, yes. I support cash penalties for violation of that. I have dogs try to climb up their own rear end. I have a number of friends here who are veterans with strong PTSD that really go down the tank every time this happens. One of my roles with veterans is assisting over 500 veterans in either acquiring disability benefits or increases to disability benefits. And people do not realize the kind of shock and intrusion it is on both our animals and our personages. So I can stand completely for that. If you want to hire law enforcement, that's one way about it. But I would not bring law enforcement on the premises without the teeth to do the job.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. And Howard, you've lived longer in the community and probably know fireworks longer than any of us. How would you answer that question?
Oh, we let them rip back in the day, but, it is a tough question. You know, it'd be nice if we had a big fireworks display where everybody could bring their families and watch the fireworks display up close, maybe in Central Park over here. But, there are not enough officers in Hayes County Sheriff's Department to patrol this area during that particular time, during that 4 or 5 hour time in the evenings. They have too many things to do. There's just no way that, I don't think we could even pay them enough to be here during that particular time. We just have to be very careful of what goes on and, be courteous to your neighbors. You know, if they have children, if they have small children, try to go somewhere else to do it. That's all you have to do, is find another place to go to. Dogs and cats, encourage everybody, bring them in the house. That's all I can tell you. I mean, it's gonna happen, whether we like it or not.
Okay, thank you very much.
May I ask a question, not to specific candidates, but in general? I had seen an email from, I think, the management company stating even if the fireworks are not illegal, we can still enforce it because we have CCNRs.
Yeah.
But I don't think law enforcement can enforce HOA CCNRs. So how is that handled?
I think that would be something, if you're elected, we have to look into it. This is something you wanted to do.
Okay,
Because that is a big question.
Yeah. So we have another question online.
It's a job for the board to decide.
Person has a
Well,
question.
that's a job for the board to decide. That's the whole point of this conversation, folks.
Right, yeah.
We just have to figure out the legality.
Okay, we have another question online. In February 2023, the board established a strategic planning committee. Its charter in part is to create a strategic operations roadmap, which will identify strategic goals, formulate tactical objectives necessary to achieve each goal, along with corresponding metrics, key performance indicators, identify tasks and resources required to accomplish each objective. When the SOR, Strategic Operating Roadmap, was completed and submitted to the board for approval, the board surprisingly declined to approve it, stating that they didn't want to be bound to a documented plan, stating instead that they wanted to preserve the flexibility of having no formal plan. So here's a question coming. My question is, if elected, will you work to move the board away from a crisis management headset to the more strategic one and revisit the adoption of the good work done by the strategic planning committee? So sorry for the length of that question. You're on the strategic planning committee. I'll let you start.
I am, but I'll ask you to like put that into ChatGPT and summarize it for me. It was a long question. But my opinion is, I am in strategic planning committee whose goal is to create and advise short and long-term goals for the board. Obviously not overlap with any other committees like the RAC or the AMC. But as much as we don't overlap, we would like to advise the board. And I mean, if anything, I might be biased because I'm in it, but if anything, it makes the board's job easier, and the board can just deny or approve it and ask for changes to it. So I support the existence of an SBC, but as for the crisis management, I think we need to better define what crisis management is, because I think it can lead to many different understandings. So that is my answer.
Okay. Cheryl?
Yes,
You want to take a stab at that question?
would you please repeat the question?
Just the
Yeah.
question.
Just the question, only the question.
Hi, Carol. I'm the chair of the strategic planning committee. So essentially, we created a strategic operations roadmap. And it had goals and objectives and tasks for that, for the board and for the other committees and for themselves to complete. The board decided to vote against it, and so this resident is asking the following question. Will you read the question, please?
Yeah, of course. So the question, Cheryl, is if elected, will you work to move the board away from a crisis management headset to a more strategic one and revisit the adoption of the good work done by the strategic planning committee?
I'm not opposed to revisiting anything that may have questions about it, to make sure that there's a thorough examination and choices are made on the appropriate ones. It's that straightforward. If there's some egregious error that pops up in the midst of something, that's an entire other question. But you know, I believe that anybody who comes in and sits on a new board has a lot of backup work to do to prepare themselves for what the current prospects in all the areas are, and to proceed from there rather than coming in with a confirmation bias already.
Okay, Howard?
You got me on this one. I'm not real sure about that, what the committee has come up with, or I've never seen it. But I certainly would revisit it, I think, and look at it from a standpoint and just kind of have someone talk to us about it and find out what it's all about. Versus crisis management, I didn't know those HOA was, I mean, I know there are some crisis management deals you got to deal with, but not all the time. I mean, most of it's just community relations. And so I think that there is a planning committee that's necessary, and certainly we need to revisit that and look at it again.
All right, thank you. Jennifer?
I'd love to ask the question, because I think that there's a really cool connection to be made between the question around apathy and the question around crisis management. So my question is, how do you take a measured approach to when we do get limited feedback and it's highly negative? How do you make sure that you don't take the noise of a couple unhappy residents, make that feel like it is representative of the entire community, and bring in well-balanced points of view?
Yeah, Trevor, we'll start with you.
So is is the question, how should we balance out extremely negative feed? So it's basically a question of how do you differentiate between frequency and amplitude? I think that's what you're suggesting. So we have some feedbacks that might be extremely negative. And I think you're suggesting, how do we not mix couple negative feedbacks versus one hugely negative feedback? Is that what you're asking?
I'm not sure. Let me try to get it. Sure.
So Jennifer, you're awesome at this. So sometimes as a board, we will get a spike of negative feedback about one thing from a few people who are really loud.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of people who aren't saying things, and so you don't know what those apathetic people are thinking. Are they apathetic and don't like it, or are they apathetic and they do like what's happening, so they're not saying anything? So the question, I think, is kind of, how do you balance that out when you get a lot of negative feedback? Are you gonna respond immediately to that negative feedback and do what that few people want? Or are you gonna take that feedback with a grain of salt? And is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, that's where I'm going, trying to apathy combined with the question around, the crisis management. Is it really a crisis, or do we not have enough well-balanced engagement, and how do you differentiate crisis versus lack of well-balanced engagement?
I would definitely look at, thank you for clarifying, I would definitely look at the merits of the feedback. One thing I would never do is basically like pinpoint people, even if they've been historically loud and rude or, you know, maybe mischievous. Instead of pinpointing the people, I would still look at the merits of the feedback. And if it's something recurring from the same person, and if it's something critical, I would get it looked at fast. But if it is something, same person complaining about the same issue, and we already checked that it's not an issue, maybe we can take it with a grain of salt. But I think it's a valid point where if we have people who have apathy, we might want to definitely increase our outreach as an HOA board. So that's my answer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl?
I've been a master coach for about 40 years. Part of my expertise is being able to separate the fly shit from the black pepper. I think that all these conversations that we have the appreciation that the people who are upset or frustrated have reasons, have rationale, have evidence in their own world for their point of view. So the question really becomes, how do we go forward with them in a way that they don't feel alienated, and also in a way that they get served without violating the standard practices and potentials and policies of everything else that's going on. If you go to a car wreck and there are 10 people at watch, you'll get at least 11 different reports about what happened. So it's germane within all of us to be able to take in information, examine information, and make conclusive stuff.
All right, thank you, Cheryl, appreciate it. Howard?
Dealing with crisis is a tough thing, there's no doubt. I think you almost have to give a little bit of cooling off and not respond immediately, because they're gonna feel like you're being confrontational with them. So I think you have to allow for that, and the people that don't respond or don't have any response, or not listening at all, or are fine with the way everything is probably the majority. And you have to take that crisis and that issue that they may have, look at it, and maybe talk to a committee or previous board members, find out how we could go about resolving that issue, and then respond to them in at least an informative way that we have, and not just off the fire.
Thank you for that question, Jennifer. It's very well thought out, and it's come from a lot of experience in serving on the board. Any other questions online? Any other questions from the audience? Okay, all right. So we'll have each candidate just take 3 minutes for your closing statements. And we'll start.
Yeah, from management, that y'all have done a lot of them. Are there any questions that we may have missed that y'all would ask potential board members, or that you've seen asked in the past that We're good.
Well, I mean, effectively, these are kind of the community's opportunity to interview, you know, so some of those classic interview questions have been kind of touched on, and some of them more expensive than others. I shouldn't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, a big deal for us is some of those questions about what attributes do you look for in a management team, but also, you know, how would you envision working with the management team in that mutual respect, and how that. Sorry, somebody's asking a question now. So that's a question that comes to mind. Sarah's been doing this a minute longer than me. She might have some other
Do you
things.
want to start with that one?
Sure.
How would you work with management? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, how would you work with the management team in Belterra?
I already started sort of working with the management team in the SPC. I think the best part is to do a divide and conquer, where we define what the goals of the relationship is between the CCMC and Belterra neighbors, Belterra HOA, and then keep a healthy advising feedback loop between the CCMC and the board of directors, because ultimately the CCMC reports to the board, and if we instruct them, or if we just don't look at what they have been working on, then it's gonna cause a neglect. And I think the best part is to just do good divide and conquer goal settings, and then healthy feedback loop between the board and the CCMC. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, how would you work with our present Belterra management team if you were on the board?
I'm a firm believer in the development of principal partnerships that are based on treating people with dignity and respect, with dignity, and for using teamwork to both identify, explore solutions, and solve issues that confront us. Issues will never go away, problems will never go away. So it depends on who we are in the face of them, and whether the people that we're engaged with as a function of doing the work feel like they've been kicked in the ass, or they feel like that they've been blessed and satisfied and entertained and have great satisfaction from doing the work. So, you know, fact of the matter is, we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. It's like when you sign the thing, you get the CCRs. That's how it goes. We live on the streets, we get the bill. That's how it goes. So I don't have a view about messing people up. I've got a view about messing people up on the side of being empowered and satisfied and flourishing in their jobs and producing the kind of results they want.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate it. Howard?
I think that we just have to understand that we're all in this together. I mean, we all love Belterra. We all want to be here, from the youngest to the oldest. We're all in it together, and we're going to work together. We're going to make it a better community. It has been a very good community, and we don't want to destroy that feeling of togetherness and the safety that we have here, our environment, the wildlife, and all that. And we want to work management together with the community, and that's our goal, period. And that's what we should strive to do.
Thank you, thank you. Sarah, Darla, you all have any questions?
I really don't have any questions. I think a lot of things were already addressed. I just have a few observations or comments. When we do have new board members come on board, we do offer a board orientation and education. So I encourage all the new board members to participate in that, ask questions. I think what we've heard tonight about collaboration and working as a team is important. I think it's also important to understand management works at the direction and pleasure of the board. So the board, as Cheryl said, sets the policy, sets the direction, and then it's management's role to carry that out. So the more that the board is educated and is making informed decisions, I think the better things can be going forward. And there are some things boards have to do. You can't decide no one pays assessments anymore. You know, there's certain things according to your governing documents that you have to enforce. There are a lot of things that come before the board that are optional, that are not required according to the governing documents. And when those things come up, and I've said this to boards in the past, when things get tough or they get, bit toxic, to really step back and ask yourself, if this is an optional thing, is it connecting the community, is it bringing it together, or is it dividing it? And make a decision from that standpoint. I think that's an important question to keep in mind.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah.
Absolutely.
We do have a question, another question online that came in. So the question is, for our candidates, if elected, what would you do different than the current board? And how do you propose to affect change? We'll start with you.
So if elected, what would I do different than the current board? I think it's about the performance of a group directed to an individual. So I don't have a direct answer to that. I can talk about my vision of what I plan to do as a board member, but I don't think it'd be very wise for me to talk about as a group's performance. So.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Cheryl?
Well, I'm sort of lost in the question. The only thing that I would say in the moment is that any conversations would have to be held in the face of some reference to quantifiable results, like stated goals, and whether those goals were being met or missed, and if so, how far. So the question is actually too ambiguous for me to grapple with without really specific data.
I'll be very honest with you, I would need that orientation to learn about exactly what we are in it for. And that would be my answer. I need to know more about it, how it all works and how it all is involved.
Absolutely. Well, I served 2 consecutive terms. It was very rewarding, both terms. So there's a lot of great things about serving the board as well. Any other questions before we have our closing statements? Yes, sir.
Jamie, I have one for you.
Yes, sir.
I know you can't run more than 2 consecutive terms, but are you gonna run are you gonna run again after a break? Since you served 2, so
Well, so despite what happens, you could run 2 consecutive terms and you can't run the 3rd consecutive term. You could take a year off and run again if a person wanted to. And that's, yeah, I have no idea. But I very much enjoyed serving on the board with all the board members and Jennifer and Bob and Kat and everybody else. So that I'll answer that question in a year.
okay. And can I ask another one to all the board members here? What has been the biggest challenge of serving in the board?
You all want to tackle that?
Everybody can look to me to go first. I think the biggest challenge is, so every year there's at least 1 or 2 new board members every year. And so, you know, it is a team, as somebody said, and team building, you go through forming, storming, norming, performing, and you do that, you have to redo that every year. So the current board, I think it's the awesome team and we really hit our groove. And so I think the hardest thing is how you maintain the momentum when you're onboarding new team members. That's for me one of the biggest challenges, but also the greatest pieces of satisfaction is being able to build new teams and get to know people over those years.
The biggest issue I've had is trying to balance the loud few and try to figure out if that is truly indicative of the entire neighborhood's desires. There are outstanding personalities personalities on social media and on emails to the board. And trying to figure out if that's isolated or if that's widespread. It's been one of the biggest challenges that I struggle with on an almost daily basis. For the past years that I've been on.
I think,
Oh, I just wanted to ask for a clarification. You mentioned Loudfield. Do you mean Loudfield like board members or Loudfield residents?
No, Loudview residents.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest challenges right now facing the board is our aging amenities. I feel like it's just a constant, the pool's dirty, the splash pad is down. And this community was built in '04. We're hitting almost 20 years. And so this is kind of similar to a house. Things slowly start breaking down. So we're getting this point where we're switching the sand filters out, we're doing all these things. And so residents are like, oh, it's so, it's never been this awful, or, the pool's never been this bad, the splash pad's never been this bad. It's like, well, that's because you're comparing it to a 10-year-old amenity versus now almost 20-year-old. And so, I think part of the struggle moving forward is gonna be our budget. And because our pool is struggling to keep up, we just switched out the sand. And if we're gonna switch out the filters, it's probably gonna be $100,000 minimum. And that's a challenge with our budget, that's a challenge, and so we're trying to figure out how we would be financially responsible with the money of aging equipment while also providing great amenities, and so that's probably gonna be one of the biggest hurdles that we face this upcoming year.
We're struggling with capital improvement versus maintenance of existing facilities that will be.
And it's hard because we all want to give perfect amenities and we want to add on and we have all these great goals and we're definitely working towards them. Jennifer's been an amazing president to make those things happen, but it's just, we have limited resources when it comes to time, volunteers, and capital.
As board members, do you ever feel when you want to repair something or add something new, do you ever feel like contractors price gouge? Because you guys are an HOA and they're like, yeah, these guys have reserved this price. Do you feel like this happens?
We, over a certain dollar amount, I can't remember, we have to bid out to multiple. We have to get a agreement. And so there have been times where one person's double the other two. And so it's kind of nice that we have that because then you can understand if people are price gouging.
And I'll give Martha a lot of credit. I mean,
Yes.
she's negotiates very well on behalf of the HOA and getting us the best deal with dealing with the contractors. She could be a professional negotiator.
Another question.
Okay, we have another question online. There appears to be a big concern in the neighborhood where a few residents are giving strong negative feedback on Belterra Neighbors Facebook page. Understanding that many residents are not on Facebook, how would you reach more of the community to get a better feel for what the majority of residents would feel like? So kind of speaks to what Bob said, which I'll let go. It's been a big deal with me too. So we'll ask the candidates, other than the strong, the people who are very loud on Facebook, how would you get the feedback of other members of the community, what they're feeling, what they would like to see?
Yeah, not everyone uses Facebook or any particular social media or even maybe even email. But I think here the crucial part is you need to do a pulse check, and it has to be either you have to offer multiple means of reaching out to people, like through email or through mail. And I think one of the most important solutions to this problem is surveys. So we could send multiple surveys. I mean, annual survey is the key. I think we still have it, but maybe we can send out more surveys by email or by physical snail mail so that people can fill it out and send it back to us. And I think that would give us the most clean and lean feedback, because not everybody uses one single social media, one single means of communication. Okay.
Cheryl?
Question again, please.
Yeah, So there's a lot of concern, like the concerns of residents on Facebook, who are very vocal. How would you reach more members of the community to get a better feel for what the majority of the residents would like?
You know, from being here, I think there's about 76 or 7,700 residents in Belterra currently. If that's close to being accurate, I think that I would actually recommend a survey of Belterra residents and to attempt to qualify and quantify the real issues that each of them had. Because of the so many diverse populations here, this is not, in my view, one size fits all. And just for example, I'd mentioned this earlier, I think that someplace in all this property, there should be a leash off park. People appreciate that or not, that does imply a significant portion of our population. So I think that it would be really valuable to, again, identify and quantify the priorities of our residents so that we can actually then see how to proceed instead of trying to second guess people.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Howard?
Oh, I've been involved in this for quite a while as an athletic director and head football coach. So there's always people that are going to be, it's easy to get on social media. It's easy to send an email, but when you ask them to come in and voice their opinion in front of a group, it's probably not going to happen most of the time. You have to think in what's best for the community. Again, and how do you get that information? I don't even know if surveys are the best way to do it because most people don't turn in surveys. They just don't. And you have to feel as a board that you're doing the right thing for the community and get input when you can from your committees who are supposed to be working with those people out in the community. And that's how you're going to find out the best feel for the community. Do you have to address those people that are negative? Not if they're on social media. I don't think. There's no way. Don't do it. You can't do it. That's my opinion.
If I could chime back into this just for a second, because I have a little different views about that. So if we had a night over at the pool of the rec center, and what we said was this is an invitation. Everybody who wants to have an outdoor leash-free facility for their puppies, bring them on a leash. And let's see who shows up.
Actually,
Because when we start,
part of our round was no rebuttals, but thank you very much. So I think we're done with the questions, right?
There's no more questions.
Okay, so we'll have the candidates do a up to 3 minutes closing statement. And we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'd like to just keep it succinct. I just want to maintain a happy, peaceful, and precision-free Belterra, and by doing 3 things: keeping the assessments reasonable, more freedom to people, and more information to people. So if you like these values and they align with yours, I want your vote. And if I fail on these, I will never run again. Thank you so much.
Cheryl, your closing statements, please.
Yeah, I'm muted. Hold on a second.
Muted. He's muted.
You're on mute, Cheryl.
You're muted, Cheryl. We're gonna get you unmuted with your closing
Yeah.
statement.
with regard to these kind of things, simple fact of the matter is I'm overqualified for anything in here that doesn't require being a medical doctor or a licensed cosmologist. So I am offer to contribute. I'll contribute my skills and knowledge to Belterra and to the HOA, whether I'm elected or not. That's just kind of like who I am. I would appreciate the opportunity to do it on a formal basis. I think that with current times and circumstances, we have a lot of work to do. And I think that it takes a certain level of knowledge and expertise and wisdom to carry it on and do it. So I want to thanks for the privilege and honor of being able to be here and do this, and good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Howard, your closing statement?
Yeah, I think that, in my opinion, this is a great community, and that's why we're here. We love it, and we have a great investment in this community, and I want to contribute that in any way I can. And I know there's going to be some issues down the road. We just have to deal with those and listen to those issues as they come up and try to work together as a board and as committee members and as all residents to try to find a solution for those problems that do come up. But I think we can, and I think we're on the right road, and I think this board has done a tremendous job in getting us to this point, and the management team too. So it's better than it was at one point, I think. It's definitely the emails, the letters have gone, that it's opened up a new world, especially for me, I think. And there might be other things we can do to get more people involved, but we'll try to work on that.
All right, thank you very much, and thanks to all the candidates. He answered some softball questions, some hardball questions, and all of you did a great job, so thank you very much. In conclusion, I want to thank you candidates for participating in tonight's event, and to those residents who took the time to attend, both in person and online. If you have not already done so, please ensure you cast your ballot. Online voting will be open until noon on June the 29th. Paper ballots will not be available in this meeting. Don't forget to join us at our annual celebration and meeting on June the 29th at 7 p.m. at the Terrace Club, with signing refreshments beginning at 6 p.m. And everybody feel free to mingle with the candidates a little bit longer if you all have time. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no longer.